some of you may be noticing this building. Sorry, one sec. I thought I could do it. With the iron like triangular top, and it has that statue at the top. It's an Art Deco style building, 1931. At the time, or for a long time, about 20 years, it was the tallest building in the city because we had a building drought after the stock market crashes, and then for the war, when the resources were all going for the war, World War II, we weren't really building in the 40s. So we didn't start building skyscrapers again until the early 50s. This is the Chicago Board of Trade. That statue at the top, this is Ceres. She's the goddess of agriculture and harvest. And the fun fact about the statue is that she doesn't have a face because they didn't think that anyone was going to build tall enough to be able to see it anyway. So you can see they really got shown up. They have like the tallest building just down the block. And just in front of us, kind of like this pink building with the little crown at the top. It's not really that special other than the beam of light up at the top. One of the most visible buildings in the skyline. It doesn't even have a name, it goes by its address. And I don't know the street, but it's 311 something. But there were 2,000 of those bulbs up at the top. They had to take out about 600 of them because it was affecting the bird migrations, and most of the neighbors don't like it very much. But sometimes the building is nicknamed the Rook, right, like the chess piece. And then also the White Castle building sometimes. But something that I really want to talk about the construction of the Sears. So it's something called bundled tubular construction. It's actually 9 75 by 75 foot boxes or tubes bundled together into one. So you can see how if you had an aerial view, right, it would be like 3 by 3, and they all top off at different heights. Only 2 of the tubes going up to the highest height. And the way that the story goes is that Fosler Khan and Bruce Graham were out to lunch, and one of them took out a pack of cigarettes. And when you are trying to make one cigarette go higher, it will be more secure if they're bundled together in the pack versus if you're stacking them up one by one. So he got this inspiration from the box of cigarettes, also from bamboo, the strongest grass species. Again, he's from Bangladesh, and that is in that tubular shape as well. So that's where we come up with the tubular construction. On our right here, we like to say on our tours, this is the world's largest "You Are Here" sign. That's not a fact, but it could be. So this is a map of the river. We just came up the bottom of the mural, like up the south branch. That little red rectangle is this building, or where we are right now, and then you'll see, what it splits off into the branch at the top. They added that mural in a couple decades after the building was built. There is something called the Council of Tall Buildings, and they decide the rules and the rankings for the world's tallest buildings. And what they've decided is that if you have an antenna on your building, it is removable and it's not part of the structure. So the Sears Tower, the Willis, or the John Hancock Center, 875 North Michigan, they have antennas. Those do not count toward their height. However, if you have a spire on your building, it is not removable, and it is part of the structure, so that does count for the height. So Freedom Tower, the new World Trade Center, right? Is that Freedom? Has a spire in New York City, and Trump Tower as well has a spire here. So it's kind of a loophole that I don't necessarily agree with, but here, this light brown building with the jagged edge towers. This is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Anyone knows anybody in finance? The goal might to have a corner office. This building has 16 corner offices per floor, which I think makes it a little less special. But what's cool about the building, oh, do we have a wedding? Something? Congratulations! Woo! The trading floor in the middle here, it's 11th floor trading floor, and they don't have the supports in the middle of the floor because they wanted to accommodate for open cry trading. And when you have open cry trading, you want to have unobstructed views to signal across to other traders across the floor. So the weight of those towers is holding up that trading floor, kind of like if you were holding a box with two of your hands on either side. And the way they do that from the 1st to the 11th floor, each floor is built 1/8 of an inch away from the opposite tower. And then from the 11th up, each is built 1/8 of an inch toward the opposite tower. I'm sure my friends in construction would say that's a construction nightmare. On the right side here though, a Civic Opera building in 1929 by Graham Anderson Probst and White. This is an Art Deco style building on this facade. It's French Renaissance on the other, although we do have more decoration here with those theater masks etching to the side. This is the back side of the theater. It seats over 3,600 people. Home of the Lyric Opera Company. The company enjoyed 90 years of uninterrupted shows because they benefit from the rent on the office towers on either side. That was by design. Of course, COVID has ruined their streak, but they are starting shows back in September. The new kid on the block on the right side is the Bank of America building, literally brand new. They just opened 2021. I don't even think the offices are completely done yet. But this is another Gesh and Partners building, so you can see those trident-like or triangular supports, I think, reflect the profile of their neighbor just down the river, 150 North Riverside. This is the same firm, so you can see, same architects, you can see the similarities in these styles. The bridge, we'll be looking at what I think is one of the most historical places in the United States. Now would be Starbucks. I'm just kidding. But Chicago did, it's such a natural. Chicago, it's a good transition. Did have the first Starbucks outside of Seattle. And we do have the world's largest Starbucks, the Roastery Reserve on Michigan Avenue. It's 4 floors. I imagine you get pretty buzzed by the time you get to the top. I don't like Starbucks or coffee, but it is a pretty neat place to visit. It was an old crate and barrel, so imagine how big the Starbucks is. But the real historical place is this building here on the right, the Great Lakes building of 1912. This was an old warehouse, as you may be able to tell, but what's so great about the building is not the building itself, but the site that it sits on. In 1860, this was the site of the Wigwam, where the Republican National Convention was held, where they nominated their candidate for the 16th office of the presidency, who later won that presidency. So that would be Abraham Lincoln, nominated here on the banks of the Chicago River. We are the land of Lincoln here in Illinois. It says it on all of our license plates. On the right side here, we have the Chicago Riverwalk, or the start of it. You can take this Riverwalk all the way to the lakefront, and I do recommend you do so. We really beefed it out in 2016. A lot of Chicagoans were against it because we lost 17 feet of the width of our river. But I don't think anybody's against it now. It's very well embraced, as you can see, by tourists and locals alike. I've seen myself, even just the last couple summers, the restaurant absolutely like exploding on the Riverwalk. It's a very popular place to be any day of the week if it's nice out in the summer. But behind this mural here, we have 333 West Wacker Drive, repeatedly voted the most beautiful building on the river. It's Cohn Pedersen Fox of 1980s. You may recognize it from Ferris's Bueller's Day Off, because Ferris's dad works in this building. He looks outside to see Ferris and the parade, or just missed him, but the parade was actually 4 blocks south of here, so I guess they had to work a little movie magic for that one. But it's a great example of contextualism. It bends with the natural curve of the river, and it on the other side fits perfectly with the Chicago grid. Now I know I mentioned our 38 bridges here. They're called bascule trunnion bridges. We're passing under one right now. But look at the steel bolts on the side, and this next building on our right. In the center of the building, you have these gray squares with those kind of stud decorations, and then at the top you have a bridge as well. It looks like a bridge house. This is 225 West Wacker. Again, Cohn Pedersen and Fox. We're paying homage to our trunnion bridges. Bascule means seesaw in French. Trunnion means pivot point. Only takes about 100 horsepower to get these babies to open. There's counterweights on either side. They open from the center out like this. And they'll open at the beginning and end of the sailing season on Wednesdays and Saturday mornings to let those boats through. But really quickly, if you are here at 9 and 9:30 tonight and every night, this Riverwalk, or this proper Parthenon, right, Greek temple, and I just like how it glistens in the sun with those window frames a little thicker. 55 West Flatbush, neighbor to the left. What a contrast. This is a Buddhist style building, characterized by those concrete slabs, like that block to it. Just after the bridge, if anyone has heard the likes of the Pillsbury Doughboy, Tony the Tiger, Snap Crackle Pop, they all come out of the ad genius that is Leo Burnett. On our right side, we have 35 West Wacker Drive, the Leo Burnett building, an ad agency here in Chicago. This building is a column within a column, and those silver pieces on the windows, those mullions, are meant to let light into the building. That is the original color of the building, not the original, of course it's the original color, but the color is from the original pencil drawing. They liked it so much that they wanted to make the building that same charcoal gray color. We're coming up the river on your right side. It's our 1 o'clock. You're going to see a Morton Steakhouse sign, and then just behind it, a dark green Art Deco tower. This with a 24-karat gold top. So here it is, the tower with that gold top. This is the Carbide, it's really light right now, so Carbide and Carbon building. In 1929, this is meant to look like a bottle of champagne, and that is on purpose. The Burnham brothers built it in protest of Prohibition, so they had their design look like a bottle of champagne. But really quickly, the Jewelers building, a very ornate Beaux-Arts style building with the Belvedere at the top, that rotunda. It used to be a speakeasy called the Stratosphere Lounge. But the story that I like about that building, if you were a jeweler in 1920 Chicago, you wouldn't want to be walking around with jewels in your pockets. There's some boats in our way. So the security for that building, you could drive your car into the building. An elevator would lift you and your car up to your floor. You park in the hallway, and that's how you get to the office. Can you imagine? But once cars got a little heavier in the 40s and 50s, they took those elevators out. Coming up on our right side, we do have the London House. We have the newer part of the London House on the right side, tapped onto the old London Guaranteed Accident building. You may recognize London House from Instagram. I know I've seen that view posted about 1 million times. But it is a beautiful view of the river. They do have a rooftop bar. I've got a price your cocktail, and you might have to make reservations for sure. But the old London Guaranteed Accident building, it's a Beaux-Arts style building. This is a French school of architecture, so we have a decorative base, a stack of floors, and a decorative top. Those neoclassical elements, so the Corinthian columns, that colonnade. At the top, the temple, it's called a Tempiety. It seats a dinner for 12 if you're looking to celebrate anything special. And you can propose in the Tempiety. You better make sure you get the right answer though. It costs $5,000. They'll give you a bottle of champagne, but if they say no, you'll be drinking a $5,000 bottle of champagne all by yourself. We just came under the Michigan Avenue Bridge, or DuSalvo Bridge, again, John Baptiste DuSalvo, our first nominated Come Seller. They actually did rename Lakeshore Drive recently to Jean Baptiste Point DuSalvo Lakeshore Drive, for granted. This building coming into view on our right side, the Aqua building with those undulating balconies. This is 2009 Jeannie Gay. At the time that it was built, it was the tallest building in the world, designed by a woman. And it is home of the Radisson Blu Hotel, also condominiums and rentals. There are 3 reasons for those balconies. I'm going to wait till they come into view again, so you can see them. Well, number 1, it is part of her design, right? The aesthetic. She was inspired by lithographs on the shores of the Great Lakes. She's a local architect here. Number 2, they are extensions of the floor plates, so they do help break up the wind. And number 3, the fresh water in the world. So we're dumping our sewage into the river and it's going into the lake, and people start to get sick. So here's John Baptiste Point DuSalvo Lakeshore Drive. People start to get sick of typhoid, dysentery, and cholera, these are all waterborne illnesses. It must be something in the water, right? Well, we were polluting our source of drinking water with the Lake Michigan. And the solution that they came up with was the sanitary and ship canal, about 17 miles south of Chinatown. We built a 26-mile long canal, dug more dirt to stature, but the lawsuit lasted 28 years, went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the solution to that lawsuit is the Chicago Harbor Lock. So we're kind of facing it right now. The gates are closed on the riverside. It's the set of gates on our, like, right here at 12 o'clock. You see that American flag underneath that red flag? That's the Army Corps of Engineers. Built in 1938. It's run 24/7 by the Army Corps of Engineers. You can literally pull up at 2 a.m. and they'll let you through the lock. I'm not going to say I've done it, but just don't tell my parents. And so the way it works is the riverside gates, if you want to get out into the lake, from this river to that lake to this river, you have to go through the lock. There's no other way. Again, this is to mitigate the flow of the Lake Michigan into the